A long time ago, the people of Kamakura in Japan loved the Lord Buddha so much that they cast a bronze statue of him, the biggest in the world. It towered above them, gleaming with light, as does the setting sun in a calm sea. That is, until they built a temple over the statue to protect it. When they looked up into the face of the statue, they thought they saw such a look of calm and kindness and love. The people who made the statue, skilled though they were, said that they couldn't have put such a look in the face. They believed that the statue had come to life. Word spread across the land that this was the biggest, the most beautiful, the most wonderful thing in all of creation. Some fishermen must have been talking about the statue when they were out at sea, because the news spread over the oceans too, until it reached Whale. Rubbish! I am the biggest, the most beautiful, the most wonderful thing in all of creation, and so I know these stories to be untrue. But even so, the stories niggled at Whale's mind. They were stopping him getting to sleep at night. And so he asked his friend, Shark, if she wouldn't swim towards the shore at Kamakura to check the stories out. Shark swam to Kamakura. When she got there, she lifted her head above the water. She could see the temple set back from the shore, but how was she, a shark, to get from the sea across the beach and up to the temple? She was about to give up and swim back into the ocean when she saw a rat scampering along the strand with a fish head in its mouth. "Ah, kind sir, I wonder if you would be so good as to go up to the building over there, get inside, measure the statue which is in there, and come back and tell me how big it is." The rat dropped the fish head in the sand and said, "Oh, I'd be delighted. It's always a pleasure to go and see the statue of the Lord Buddha, for it is the biggest, the most beautiful, the most wonderful thing in all creation." And away the rat scampered up to the temple, squeezed in under the door, ran right around the plinth on which the Buddha was sitting, and came back to Shark and said, 5,000 paces! 5,000 paces, said Shark. That is very big. I wonder what Whale is going to say. 5,000 paces? From where to where? From the tip of its nose to the end of its tail? And whose paces were they? How big were they? A rat's? Believe the word of a rat? Never. That's what Whale said. And he shook with laughter so much that the waves washed up on the shores of 7 different countries. But even so, the stories still niggled at his mind. And so he decided to go to Kamakura to see for himself. As he approached Kamakura, he reached up onto the continental shelf to get down his magical boots, with which he could walk on the land. And the night that Whale came ashore, the tides rose higher than they ever had before. Rivers flowed backwards. Seaweed was left hanging from the branches of trees. Whale walked right up to the temple. He gave the door a mighty thwack with his flipper. None of the priests awoke, but a voice from inside the temple said, come in." "I can't come in here. I'm far too big, far too huge to fit into a little kennel like this," said Whale. And the voice replied, "Very well. I will come out." The statue of the Buddha climbed down off the plinth, walked across the temple, got down on its hands and knees to squeeze out through the door, and then stood up outside the temple. And both the Buddha and the whale blinked at each other in amazement to see just how big the other was. As the Buddha had squeezed out of the temple, he must have set one of the temple bells ringing, for one of the priests had awoken, come into the temple, saw that the statue was gone. "Oh, our Buddha has gone. Have thieves heard how beautiful he is and come and stolen him? But how could they have moved the statue? Or has the Buddha himself tired of having so many visitors?" He ran out of the temple doors, beginning to shout, "Our statue of the Buddha has..." And he looked up, open-mouthed with astonishment, when he saw the Buddha and the whale standing there outside the temple, deep in conversation, surrounded by a very fishy smell. "Ah," said the Buddha, catching sight of the priest out of the corner of his eye, "how fortunate that you have come. You could help us out. My friend the whale here is anxious to know how big we both are. I wonder, would you be kind enough to measure us?" The priest looked around for something with which to measure them, then realized he had his string of prayer beads and used that. It took him a long time, a lot of figures to count up. He scratched with a stick on the ground to keep track of all the numbers. But at last, when he was finished, he very hesitantly said to the Lord Buddha, my Lord Buddha, I have to tell the truth. The whale is 2 inches bigger than you are." "I knew it! I knew I was the biggest, the most beautiful, the most wonderful thing in all of creation," said Whale, and twirled around on his magical boots and headed back towards the sea. As he went, letting out such a blast of air from his blowhole that it set all the temple bells jangling. "I'm so sorry, my Lord Buddha, but perhaps we could cast a little more bronze on your forehead, or perhaps a little on the soles of your feet to make you a little bigger." "Please," said the statue of the Buddha, "don't worry about it. It is of great importance to the whale to know that he is bigger than I, and it is of no consequence whatsoever at all to me. Please, go back to your sleeping quarters, go to sleep, and give the matter no further thought." The priest walked back through the garden, wafted along by the smell of the water-lily flowers. And as he went, he just heard the Lord Buddha muttering almost under his breath, "Besides, the whale has still to take his boots